everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Recruitment Revolution. I'm delighted to be today by Wendy McDougall, who is the CEO of Firefish. Now, for those of you that don't know what Firefish is, it's a CRM that we use at KD Recruitment, and many other recruiters in the industry use it to help. Basically, it's an extra admin person. So it's very efficient and it helps me do my job to the best of my ability. Wendy and I met a few weeks ago in person at an REC event where she was talking a lot about AI and automation within recruitment and the industry and the impact that that's having with a lot of our clients. So I invited Wendy on today to talk to everybody in a bit more detail, because I found it fascinating listening to you, so that we can share some insights to our clients about kind of what's coming up in the future, because this technological revolution that we're in at the moment, I think, is coming thick and fast. So Wendy, give me a bit of background about how you came to set up Firefish.
No, thanks for the intro and having me on, and obviously one of my favourite topics right now as well, so lots to share. So my background, I'm a recruiter as well, so started recruiting far too long ago. I think it's been about 25 years at least I've been recruiting for, but I have done in-house and I have done agency, built an agency, sold an agency, and really why Firefish has come about is it's a sum of all of that, in that I was really sort of understanding where the technology should be going. I didn't feel it was there for recruiters, particularly in the agency market as well. And so out of frustration, I suppose, we started a labour of love almost 15 years ago now. And myself and my co-founder, Andrew Mackay, he is a technology genius. I'm the sort of ideas, and together we built what is Firefish. And it's, as I said, we do run some corporate HR recruitment teams as well, so in-house recruitment teams, but the majority of it all is supporting the agency network out there. And I see it my mission to try and look at what's happening outside and bring it to our customers like yourself, and make that job a little bit easier for you guys, because you're busy enough with everything recruitment's throwing you.
Absolutely. And I think there's so many things on the horizon at the moment with automation, AI, the new employment rights bill. There's lots and lots of changes going on. How are you seeing that affecting the recruitment industry from my perspective, but also those businesses that are obviously doing their own recruitment as well?
Yeah, so it's a really unique time right now in terms of we've got this tsunami of change from AI coming, and it is coming, this big wave. And then we've also got a lot of economic pressures right now that are definitely having an impact and effect on the jobs market. So, a lot of people, I think, after April and the NI hit a lot of boardrooms, just sort of have taken a wee step to ponder on, right, what jobs should we be looking at, which ones aren't, because it's got more effective. It was eventually a tax on jobs. So with that, and also the AI side of it, everybody's looking for efficiencies, but actually the truth is not a lot of people are getting the true efficiency out of the technology. So that's a challenge for boardrooms just now. On the same hand, they're reducing staff, or they're trying to look at jobs that need to be moved and displaced into different jobs. And so there's a big move on that impact as well. So, it's kind of a bit of a perfect storm. And it's one that we've all been through, I've been through 3 or 4 past. Let's not say that we're getting there, but we've had it in terms of harder times. But this is the first time that needs to be invested and the tech that's around there. So that is change is hard, and when you've got it all hitting you, it's even harder.
No, and I agree. Areas with our in Yorkshire, so we've got a lot of businesses who prior to April, wanted to invest in people, technology, all those kind of things. And then, like you say, that NI increase, minimum wage increase that became this tax on jobs, everybody's had to kind of hold back and look at internal efficiency. So there is restructures going on, there are redundancies, but not because I think businesses are struggling for money. It's more they're trying to get more out of the people, automate what they can to bring that profit back, which absolutely makes business sense, and I get that. And you know, I'm starting to see certain jobs not get recruited for anymore. So you know, because of these kind of changes that are happening, certain jobs will start disappearing. But actually, the flip side of that is the roles that are coming into the market are a lot more specialist and niche, because again, these business owners need what I describe as a pink unicorn. So they need somebody who can come in, hit the ground running, whether that's they've got experience of using a certain system, certain sector experience, or whatever it might be. They want this person who can come in and either drive that profit forward or make changes to kind of look at cost saving or whatever it might be. But I think the challenge is that if businesses don't do these changes in the right way, it could have a detrimental effect. And I think, you know, listening to you talk when we were at the event a few weeks ago, it was really interesting to hear that actually what's going on here is similar to the picture you're seeing across the UK, because obviously your customers are UK wide and recruiters of all sizes. So when we're looking at the data of, you know, the number of jobs that are advertised, the number of jobs that are getting filled, and the types of jobs that are there, actually it's good for me to go, okay, so what's going on here is a similar picture to the UK. And are you seeing that it is quite similar across all the areas?
Yeah, you're definitely not alone. So don't worry, Leeds is not in Yorkshire is not in a little island. It is across the whole UK and it's across the whole world. You know, this is something that, you know, America's challenged with as well. And I think there's that bit of desperation when you mentioned a number of different things. I'm just going to pick that down a wee bit, if that's all right. You know, in terms of going out for the pink unicorn, you're absolutely correct. People are thinking that I need these skill sets right now, but actually, truth be told, they don't know what actual skill sets they need. What they're looking for is a digital native with innovative thinking, because they've got problems internally and challenges internally that they need somebody that they can trust to be able to work that company through in a different way, right? Because that is what we're in just now. So I think that is the challenge that I think corporate and in-house TAs have got to recognise their role in, that a lot of the divisions that are coming to them with roles is really actually understanding a wider scope, don't get too narrowed and focused on the skill sets just now. Yeah. That would be my advice to some of the TAs out there just now. And I think also the desperation of that that team may have also been shrunk because we know that, gosh, there's a lot of colleagues out there in TA teams that unfortunately have been slimmed down because the volume of hiring has slimmed down. It's a natural cycle. We've seen it a number of times. But don't just go and grab at the latest technology that's hitting in there. I think you and I had a chat. I see the majority of money that is getting pumped into the corporate HR world, different to some of the areas we're experiencing, is all on sourcing strategies and assessment strategies. So that assessment strategy really worries me a lot because it just now it is solving a problem. There's more candidates out there. How do we filter those candidates down when I've only got one or two people where I used to have 2 or 3, 4 or 5 people in that team? That seems to make sense, but really is, you know, as you see it, like a candidate now is smarter. They're using AI to write their CV and tailor it to whatever your job is. They just popped it in and said, rewrite my CV to this job spec. The job spec has probably got put into the, you know, these technologies and curated the advert through ChatGPT or one of the other sort of AI systems. So you're really getting AI assessing AI, and that worries me.
Yeah.
And I think that really the decisions that a lot of CEOs, so top line, then driving it down into boards, have to really be wrestling with right now is not how do we get more out of our people. It's not what tech do we need to actually put on. You need to look at all the different roles, and you need to look at your people in terms of, right, what is valuable about the person and what can be automated that is okay. And if you start to look at it with that sort of lens, and I think TAs and recruiters and yourself, I know you do a lot of consultancy with your clients, they play, I think we play a huge role in that supply chain, challenge right now of actually identifying the value of a person over and above the value of the automation, and throwing the money into thinking that that's a short-term fix that can get in. I really see that, in another 6 months' time, you are going to be getting a short list that can't do the job if you rely on those sort of tech that's coming through, because they're assessing the wrong type of people in the first place. And that worries me a lot.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think you've hit the nail on the head. The AI assessing AI is something I'm seeing. So, you see there are CVs that come through that look familiar as if you've seen it before, and you go, okay, so these have been generated by an AI. A lot of them, I would say at the moment, are more international workers coming to the UK. Maybe their English isn't very good, so they're using sort of ChatGPT or whatever to create a CV, but the format's the same, the wording is the same. It's
There's
very
emojis on bullet points.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's difficult if you are trying to interview these people, because actually one of the things that I don't think a lot of hiring managers, recruiters, TAs and directors appreciate is they weigh heavy on a CV. So that interview, as much as they don't want to realise it, they've put a lot of weight on a CV and they interview alongside. So if a piece of technology has written that CV and it's not necessarily a true representation of that person, how do you then interview properly to ascertain what they can and can't do? So there's two sides to this for me. There's the recruitment process and then there's the interview process. Because if your job description and advert has been created by tech and you've put that out there, and then John Smith and Jane Doe have tailored their CV with tech to match that, to get through your ATS systems, whatever it might be, yes, they're going to get shortlisted for interview, but how do you know that they have done that? So I prefer people to go away and rewrite the CV specifically for me for whatever I'm going to put them forward to. I want it to be in their words, and I want them to put achievements in there and return on investment, so it's not a standardized thing. But similarly, from our perspective, we interview every candidate before we put them forward to a job. So we have sort of a 2 to 3 stage process. We screen the CV, we pre-register them over the phone, so a telephone interview, and then it's a face-to-face interview. So we have a 3-stage process before we put them forward to a company for a job. And then the company will have maybe 1 or 2. Some want a lot more at the moment, but I'm going to go with 1 or 2 processes. But I think the thing that we're seeing is, how do businesses change up the interview process so they're not doing exactly the same as what we've already done? So that they're thinking about, how do we, because it's not about competency interviews and things like that. It's how do you get the best out of that person to see whether they can do the job. But also, bearing in mind, every single business leader at the moment wants to hire on behaviours and attitude as well. Mm-hmm. So a piece of AI for me can't assess behaviours and attitude, and it can't assess whether they can do the job. What it can do is read the information you put into it and do that. So I think, if we're going down this route of AI assessing AI, the human part of this is the bit that we can control, the interview process. And how does that evolve to be thorough but not lengthy is my key thing here.
So I think, Kelly, what you've just described there is what we're going to hear lots more of, is trust, right? And I do not use this word lightly, because trust is something that we're going to be searching all over the for. And trust will be where, from a professional agency like yourself, that's why, I would predict in 6 months' time or so, you'll get calls from your good client base, as an example, and say, I've just gone through a whole process, I've wasted months on this, could you just get me one guaranteed person that can do this job, please? And actually your shortlists will go and reduce, because it could be just, here's 2 people that I'm paying for you to have done that, and you will have done that trusted process. And the reason why I think that is something that we will go back to, sort of more old school tactics with trust in there, is because actually the assessment process is only as good as the collection of the requirements. And it's very easy just to go and get a job spec internally and pop it through the AI to get the advert and everything else. But I know that the best recruitment agencies out there never take a job spec. They never work for a job spec. I used to always say you need to have a face-to-face, whether it's online or it used to be go out to see the client.
I still go out.
Yeah, exactly. Good. I'm delighted to hear that, right? That is what our profession gets paid to do. Yeah. We do get, the recruitment profession, and I say we because I'm still passionate so much about it, but we get, I always said to my recruiters when I was running a recruitment agency, we get paid a big fee on certain jobs. So you deserve to work hard for that, right? And we do work hard for that, but that means that the client's got to see that effort. And part of that effort is going and taking and using your key skills of the analysis of actually what this job means. And if we go back to our earlier discussion, one of the biggest problems we've got is jobs are changing. Jobs are getting displaced. So the job spec that they were writing that maybe was 6 months or a year or even 3 years old, I know they're still out there, come on, get them changed. They're changing very quickly just now. So that analysis piece and actually then saying, this is where I think you're looking for this person to achieve, and these are the goals that this person will demonstrate if they're successful within the 3 months, within 6 months, and the milestones is like gold dust, because then your assessment comes in. All right. So if you're just doing it on, a job spec that you don't really understand what the objectives are, what the challenges of that division are trying to fix or trying to achieve, then it's just tech doing tech, right? And that's not going to come through. Whereas what you're able to do is at least take through a good traditional process, because you've gone and found out a little bit more about what this pink unicorn is really going to be doing, and they might not have all the correct skills that job spec has, but you'll demonstrate, because no candidate's perfect, right? Yeah. So AI will not make any candidate in any job perfect, no matter how much we want to hope it will. But it will come from lots of different areas, and a good recruiter will make those areas shine, and a better recruiter will also highlight the weaknesses. So to then help the interviewer, listen, if you're really looking for these are the areas that I think this person needs some extra support on. Let's dig into that and see if that's still something you can work. They're perfect at those strengths.
Yeah.
So, I think in terms of just looking at the problem we've got right now, can't get easily fixed with just tech, but there are definite techs that can make you more efficient. But going back to actually understand how all of these jobs are changing, building the trust and the validation, because I'm sure, you get a candidate coming in, you think, that looks a bit dodgy, I know that person, was that person good or bad, etc. You can make a couple of calls. That's what the recruitment agency had, visibility to the whole market, not just one organisation. And you can validate, that very quickly. Were they good, bad, and different? What did they really do there? Right? Yeah. That is what builds trust.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing as well, because actually where automation and AI will take certain elements of roles out. That trust bit and the human bit is the bit that I think is going to become the most important part of any recruitment process. You're absolutely right. I think I joke with people all the time and say, if I could do my job without anybody's CV and without a job description, I absolutely would. Because essentially what we're doing is Match.com, but filling jobs. We're matching people and businesses together. And it's all about culture, values, behaviours, attitude. You can teach somebody to do what they can't do. And the other side of that is these job descriptions, whether it's an old one or a new one, that's what you're going to be doing when you're fully trained in the job. That's not the wish list of what you're looking for somebody to come in. So for me, anybody who advertises a job with a job description is wrong, because actually what you're doing with that is discounting a massive chunk of the market, because you're going, we want somebody who can already do X, Y, and Z, but that's not what the recruitment process is about. We want people who, you know, have got the same passion as us about our brand. We want people whose values align with us. We want people who are proactive and forward thinking, who are solutions focused. And then if you're an accountant, then we want somebody who actually has a bit of experience within this accountancy role. Or if you're HR, we want you to have worked in HR. But what we're not asking is for somebody who's done the 27 things on this list, because that's what we need you to do in this job, not necessarily what you've done in your previous job. So for me, we very much, when we go out and meet with a client and we take the job in, I don't take a job in with a job description. I get a copy of it because the candidates can have that at interview stage, but that's not what we work on. I use the same format for every single role, and I get all the information I need off the person. And the most part of that is, what kind of person do you want? What's important to you? What does good look like? What do you not want in this person? What do you want us to tell you about the candidate? What's the most important things for us to relay to you? And then similarly, when we're talking to candidates at an interview, what's important to you in this next opportunity? What kind of company do you want to work with?
And you're never going to get any of that on a CV.
And nothing about the questions we ask is ever the stuff that's written down.
Exactly.
Ever. Exactly. So that human part is never going to go anywhere. And I think the challenges that I'm seeing, and in fact, I put a LinkedIn post about this the other day. There's a lot of businesses at the moment who are trialing AI or have invested in it on automation. And when you speak to them, they go, oh, we're advertising the role ourselves to see how we get on. And it's tech that's doing it. So like you say, they've got a job description, they've put it in AI, it's generated an advert, they've put it on, they've got a system that's checking keywords, compliance, can you drive, can you do this? It's doing a shortlist based on them keywords. Bish, bash, bosh, you've got 6 candidates to interview. But my problem is they get to the end of that and those 6 people on paper match it, but they don't like any of them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when you'll get the call, I think.
Yeah.
And you know what the hard fact is? You know, the in-house teams and the TAs are going to get I feel for them right now. They are forced into trying to make these decisions. That is their remit right now. So anybody that is out there, totally get what your remit is just now getting forced down. You have to do more for less, and you have to give these things a go. And so from the agency side, you know, we're going to have to be there and add different value that we can while this process happens. And then it's going to come together again at the end of the year of, right, okay, we've tried this. Now we can decide which bits we're happy to do ourselves and which bits we're happy to outsource, and which bits we work with a true partner to be able to build that trust again in terms of where we need them. You know, with this sort of total balance of, you know, when things are going really, when we're hiring in-house a lot, then the TA teams then grow, and then you've got more people trying to actually do that job. When they're not hiring, then the TA teams shrink, and then the tech right now is trying to fill that gap. It's going to balance it out again, and then people will find their place as to where they are then able to, our job is getting displaced. We've got to learn the value you've just demonstrated and be able to package that value up better to all of our clients so they recognise that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, is that the recruitment industry is is moving forward, and we are more than just a CV sending service. And that sort of adding value and why would people use us, I think, is kind of what you just said there. It's not just about when we're recruiting for roles, it's what other things do we do for our clients. And I think as TA teams and, directors of businesses, CEOs, etc., as they are struggling because they're trying to bring tech in, or they've, shrunk the teams and things like that, it's about actually how do we then support the business as a whole. So, what I've always seen over the years when we're in a tough market like this is where the recruitment teams are shrank, a lot of onus is put back on hiring managers, because the internal recruitment people haven't got time and capacity to do the interviews and things. So, they'll release the job and everything, but it's the hiring manager who has to do the interviews. But actually, if that person hasn't had any training invested in them on how to interview properly in today's market, not 10 years ago, are they going to hire the wrong people? So I think part of one of the things at the moment is, how do you invest in your people so that if they are picking up things like interviews and that kind of stuff and onboarding and everything, have you invested in them with somebody to come in and do some training, or have you got in-house training, or, don't just throw that as an extra duty on their lap, invest in those people, because I think, technology can't cover everything. The training and development thing is a really big piece in this moving forward as well. Yeah. And going back to what you were saying about kind of these jobs that we don't know where they're going to be, one of our other podcasts is with a guy called Phil Pond, who he's a market analyst, and he talks a lot about jobs that don't even exist yet, and jobs that are disappearing. So for me, if we look at the job descriptions of today are going to be very different to the job descriptions in 5 and 10 years. So whoever you're recruiting, it's what you said before, whoever you're recruiting at the moment is never going to be able to do what you need them to do in 5 years. You have to hire them for what they can bring to the table today and then upskill them. But similarly, if we look at that next generation of workforce that are at school, college, university, they are in education at the moment trying to be prepared for a career that is going to be very different to what it is today. So as businesses, we have to really think about the humans that are coming into this, because everything is moving at such a pace, and technology in certain ways is going to be amazing. It's really going to help drive businesses forward, but it can't take over the humans. So what we've got to do, I think, is work with these people and upskill and investing back into this training and development piece of, you get good people in your business and look after them, and then upskill them and give them the opportunities to step up and take on these projects and take on these new roles and learn them. And, we're going to have, AI coders and things like that in businesses very, very soon. But where are they going to come from? Because they don't exist yet. So where are you recruiting these AI coders from when that is not even a job yet?
And because you're using our tech, so I know what you've got in your business, and that ultimately, we looked at it in that we're not trying to step on the recruiter's sourcing and interviewing stuff. But I know that what we're doing behind the scenes is we're enabling you to have a journey for life with a candidate. You are able to, once you've attracted that candidate, you're engaging with them on regular touch points. You understand now this unstructured data that's taken off and is then linked to the types of companies that they're working with. That profile of that company then is giving you the background of that experience, and you're tracking that person around. So I think that's to your point of, the jobs that you've got right now and where they're going, you ultimately actually are thinking about, listen, I can be your recruitment partner with these candidates throughout their careers. Because I think as a business owner myself, what you said was very valid. What we have right now with some of our employees, and we've got about 70 odd, so it's, reasonable SME, but some of them right now will evolve. And some of them, the job will evolve beyond them, right? But that doesn't mean that they're not right and they're sort of dead on the bench, but they will be great for somebody else. It's just some companies are moving faster, some companies choose to move differently, and it's just then you would then readdress their skill sets and understand they now would really be able to use that experience and take it into this company, but this company now needs somebody else to move it beyond, and that's okay. Right?
Yeah.
You know, that is okay to have. The days as we've known to have a candidate for life is very yes, far and few between. And candidates aren't expecting that now either, you know. And so actually I would say that some jobs, unless that candidate is able to evolve with the company, you know, a couple of years and they should move on, right? Yeah. And likewise, the company should have moved that job on as well, because we are having to accelerate things so quickly. Just on your last point as well, in terms of like the younger generation coming in, that is one of the areas of great concern just now. And I really hope that the government will, I know REC, REC, I know that Neil Carberry will do his best on this as well. But, you know, we need some development support for bridging that gap right now when businesses are having a problem that just now you're probably seeing that we are looking for people with experience largely out there, because essentially if you're going to be having to pay a large tax on an employee, why and what is the incentive for taking on, you know, junior unqualified people to train them up? There isn't much. Yeah. You know, and that is a real problem that I think society is going to have to face very quickly as well. I actually, you know, I've got teenage daughter, you know, 16. She's fortunately got another couple of years at school, but she'll be going to university. And I do fear for her coming out of university, unless it's going to be a very practical job right now, you know, then where and how is she going to be able to get an apprentice or a placement at university to get those sort of skill sets to be able to bridge that? And just now, who can blame businesses? You know, it's a tough gig just now.
And I think that's one of my biggest challenges at the moment is, as we're seeing AI and tech basically removing that entry level role. If you look at admin, I mean, even if we go back to the pandemic, all the businesses that shut in the pandemic and got rid of offices, and even though they've got staff back in the businesses now, receptionist isn't a job really anymore.
Oh, I didn't realise that I would have to try and train somebody to answer the phone these days. You know, it's in my induction program. Exactly that. And receptions, you know.
Receptionists are not a thing anymore. Hotels still have them and spas and things like that. But, you know, on business parks and industrial estates, you go in and there's a tablet for you to sign in. It notifies the person there. I mean, it's like Fort Knox trying to get through the security doors and everything. Don't get me wrong. And I feel like I'm in the Krypton factory or something trying to get through. But there isn't a need for receptionists in businesses anymore. So that evolved very quickly as a result of the pandemic. So if we look at kind of your entry level marketing, admin, finance, all of those things where
call centers.
Yeah, call centers, tech can take over and is. So a call center, you don't need as many people in your call center now because you can do web chat with AI integrated into web chat, and it's only then if it progresses to the next stage that you then speak to a human being. You know, admin, compliance, those kind of things. AI can check it, flag it, tell you what you're missing, when you're missing it, you know, that kind of stuff, reference checking, all those kind of things. Finance, I mean, even just as simple as I have an app for my accounts and the software that I use codes everything for me. Like, I don't need to be an accountant to do half of that stuff, you know? So with entry-level jobs, if they're disappearing, the next level up is people with experience. Mm-hmm. And people who can do the job. They've maybe done it for 6 months, 12 months, or even 2 years. And it's that next step up in each of these roles. But if those entry-level roles don't exist anymore because tech has taken big chunks of the roles away, how do you then get experience?
Okay, so this is where I get excited. And I want to try and... We've been quite sort of like realistic about the situation that's happening. And then we've also been like, okay, here are some of the concerns, right? Yeah. But the future is bright. And then we've just got to think creatively about how that problem is solved. So does the AI start teaching the juniors?
Yeah.
And that then takes the coaching element of the practical elements in school, of the skills away. So there are different ways of being effective and efficient with learning on that as well. What we do need to encourage is, junior candidates coming in, that they need to be hungry to learn. They need to also understand it's their responsibility to actually want to learn as well. It's not on a spoon for them.
Yes.
And that's a good thing in my end. So, I think we need a wee bit of a change with the younger generations coming in, that they need to want it again. When when I certainly came out of university, I knew I had to go anywhere in the UK to get my first job. That was my thought process, right? So we need a wee bit of that back, right? So I think that's where it starts flipping, and that we start to look at that. Anything that we've got as a problem, we look at what bits can we then make sure that we're being efficient in a better way, and we can use tech to solve that problem, and then we use the human elements of that coming through. So, the tech can be starting. I see going forward, we will have teams of hybrids, in that we will have agents and people together. The agents will do the first screening level, that will get taken away, but the humans then will kick in when somebody needs that to be escalated. And then the humans will then also train the AI, and then eventually the AI will start to train the humans in elements as well. I mean, it's just we're just going to have to start to think very differently about how organizations are put together. And that, for me, from an HR point of view, I'm not going to do in-house or recruitment agency, because I think from an HR people stance, that's where we've got to get excited. There's a huge amount of opportunities. The biggest change to organizations is going to be in our hands to fill, whether or not your agency or your in-house, to think about how do we set up organizations and people challenging through all of these areas of change. And that's exciting. And there's, wherever there's change, there's opportunity. And I think my best phrase right now is just be on the right side of the change.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is we've talked quite a bit about what we think can be the challenges and some of the red flags, but actually this technological revolution that we're going through is happening for a reason, because we need it. If we think back to when the Industrial Revolution came in, and, yes, there was machines that suddenly did jobs instead of humans, but the humans had to learn to use the machines, and then the humans went and did other jobs. And, and it's the same thing with this, which is what you're saying. We have to look at this tech coming into businesses, and if businesses don't embrace it, they're going to fall behind. So you have to embrace it, but do it for the right reasons, with the right bits of tech, so that it can enhance what you're doing. And as you say, find a solution to something, and don't just have them blinkers on to go, this is just causing me problems. And I love the idea that some sort of AI bot is going to become an employee to enhance what everybody's doing. And I think, it sounds crazy, and it sounds like something from a film, but it's going to be a reality in the very near future.
We have two of them already in our business, and we have KPIs on them like we have KPIs on others, and we learn and we train, and there's management coaching that's put in, and you have to then start to do it. And that's what the management skill is going to be. But I think, just to sort of maybe then, finish up on this on a positive note as well, is that we actually have a bit of a crisis going on anyway. We don't have enough people for the volume of types of jobs that we're actually looking to automate just now. And there is a societal change as well, that less people are having children.
Yeah.
Right? So that whole change and shift is happening as well. We're about to come through the baby boomers, etc. as well. So we're going to have an aging population that is going to be out of work and less people in work. So we actually do need some automation to come through, because we don't actually have enough people to do some of those work. And the people that do want to do, or like are working, half of them don't want to do some of the work that can be automated. So in many ways, if we look at that displacement as an opportunity to do more exciting work, But we do need an attitude of change to come through in terms of recognising that within society. And that if society wants to be on that right side of change, they're going to have to put a wee bit of effort in here and keep up with it.
Yeah. And I think that's right, because I know that there's loads and loads of different stats around with the baby boomers. And I think when they were born, there was like 1 million babies born. But then on average now, I think we're down to about 600,000, something like that. So, when people say we've got a skill shortage, yes, we do, but we've got a people shortage. And
Exactly.
as those baby boomers are the ones who are retiring, you've lost a massive chunk of knowledge. And this is where the skills gaps lie, because after that, it's just dipped in terms of how many people have been born every decade. So, we definitely need the tech to automate some of these things, because we haven't got the skills to fill elements of the roles. And I think it's a great positive change. But you're right as well, because people are hungry for different things. And if I look at my kids, so I've got a son at university and I've got a daughter who's still at school. They are that generation like yours of, they don't know a life without technology. So if they're our future, they're going to run the country in the future, they're going to run all these businesses. To expect them to do things the way that me and you were trained to do when we first started out in work, it's not going to work. My son lives in the virtual world. He's been a gamer, and he would chat to anybody all over the world. And so in my head, we have a virtual reality and the real world. But in that generation, there's just one world. And your best friend could be sat in China and you talk to them every night through your headset while you're gaming. But to me and you, that's like an alien concept, because you go, well, you've never met them. How do you know who they are? But actually, that's the way of business. You can work from anywhere. You can do your job anywhere. This is how businesses is evolving. And I get really excited about it, because I see that the future is changing, and change is good. I think take the pandemic and everything out of the equation, because that was bad change. But actually, there has been some real positives to come out of that, with the whole you can work from anywhere and actually tech speeding things up.
We're on Teams right now,
We're on Teams right now, absolutely. So, there are some. It was a massive tragedy, but in terms of kind of how the world of work has evolved very quickly in the last 5 years, there's some really, really exciting things to come out of this. Somebody used the analogy at an event I went to a few years ago about tech and AI, saying this ship is leaving the harbour, and if you don't jump on it, your business will not survive. So you need to jump on it now before it leaves the harbour, and embrace it. Otherwise, your business is going to stop. Having said that, not all businesses survive in every market anyway. So for every business that does close, there are probably another 5 that are new startups and stuff. So again, the world of work is evolving in that way as well.
Definitely. Spot on. And, that's the attitude we need. If you're still sitting there and you actually look at what you do every day and think that could be automated, then get a shift on.
Yeah, absolutely. But do the right bit of tech with the right integration, and do your due diligence first. Don't just take the first thing that comes along and hope it's going to work.
Yeah, definitely.
Fab. Oh, thank you so much for your time today, Wendy. It's been so interesting talking to you. And for everybody listening and watching, tune in for the next one that's coming up very soon. And don't forget to follow us.